Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, we know a little bit about AltAgency, but would love to hear from you. Like, what started that journey? What were you doing before? And how would you describe what you do?
Yeah. Uh, I would describe AltAgency as a training, consulting, and education company. And we basically have been training, consulting, and advising really small marketing agencies, freelancers, consultants since the earliest capacity was 20, but like it really started taking shape in 20, where it kind of became like the main thing that we were doing. So I started off though as a marketing agency, specifically marketing automation. We were behind the scenes of a lot of authors, speakers, coaches building out their sales and marketing automation, doing their launch campaigns, webinar funnels, new client onboarding. So we were behind the scenes of some really successful names that you probably heard of, and watching how they ran their business, they structured their business, which has always been fascinating to me. And we were growing through word of mouth really well. And we hit this kind of threshold where, it was all right, well, in order to take on the next batch of clients, we for sure have to hire another person. But things were like tight. I mean, margins were tight. We were working a lot. And quite frankly, I didn't want a larger team. I had spent a decade or more, 2 decades really, in like agency world, working with big brands, small brands, large agency, boutique shops before finishing client side, where I was hiring and responsible for managing external agencies. And we hit that point where I'm like, all right, things are tight. We're a team of, I don't know, at the time it was like 9 or 10. In order just to take on one incremental client, we need another person. I can't really afford that person. I don't have enough work for just one more person. We're definitely not efficient. Something's going on here. Sure. And I just quoted him like 50% of what we normally charge for our done for you services, which ended up being like $7,500, which was basically, he's like, all right, I'm in. And he like paid me right then and there. And that's kind of what stumbled into, wait a minute, we've been doing these services for a while. We know it. Like I can do it in my sleep. Most of it's already pre-built and we need a few things from the client. And then, so I worked with him and I was like, man, this was really easy. Like he was the labor and we were the expertise. And so we did a cohort of like, I took on like 5 to 10 people just to try to walk other people through this same process that I was kind of like throwing together with him. And we sold like 20 grand of that. And then we did another cohort. And in that cohort, there were a bunch of agency owners and service providers. And they're like, we want this automated sales machine too. They're like, well, we just do whatever the client tells us. And so then I had to, on the fly, figure out how to help them productize their service. And then that became the thing. So, like, kind of just stumbling through my own issues of like, I want to grow, but I don't want to grow with more team. And I'm already at capacity. I stumbled into is now what selling training looked like. And I'm like, wait, we can all make money this way. And that's what AltAgency is. It's the realization that as a service professional, agency owner, practitioner, that you have acquired a decent amount of expertise and knowledge that is monetizable, that you're likely giving away for free inside of your service. And by packaging it up appropriately in a variety of fashions, you can introduce new income streams that are far more profitable, far more leveraged, and don't require you to have a ton of people, but also have a very high upside on your income. So that was the long answer to what should have been a short answer, but that's kind of how we accidentally ended up here.
I
Yeah,
love
this
that.
problem feels all too real. I think both SteHan and I like running our own sort of consultancy slash agencies or whatever we want to call it. Why do you think entrepreneurs and business owners sort of get trapped in this agency model?
Oh man. I mean, the first is that I think depending upon how old you are, and by looking at you guys, we're probably similar age range. That's all we knew. Like that's
Mhm.
what we came from, kind of like full serve, like a la carte option. And so I think one, it's kind of how, like when I say traditional agency, like it's kind of how an agency was done, like for a long time. Like the big agencies still operate that way, but I don't think that model necessarily translates to a lot of the people that end up leaving those big agencies and going out on their own to launch their own thing. So first, it's all we knew. Second is something that is going to make a lot of people unhappy in most cases is that in the beginning, it's a lot easier and feels natural to accept. So you take a client to do say a website, and they're paying you whatever, and you don't have another client ready to pay you. And they're like, but hey, can you also do insert other random task that you don't really want to do? You might not even know how to do, but then you say yes, because that is sure thing money right now. And that just happens over and over and over and over again. And we can never escape that. And what that really means is you need to actually just learn how to market and bring people to you, or else you're always going to let that scope of work expand beyond what is likely your core capability. And I think that's why you end up being like, oh, well, now I'm a one person shop, but I work with these 5 other contracted people that are experts over here, but those people are really expensive. And so you might be charging 10K for the service, but you're only taking home 2K, which is like a horrible margin. And now you got to deal with managing other experts. And so I think we end up kind of trapping ourselves because we just don't know how to say no and go find more clients that want what we are good at and that we want to serve, doing what we enjoy doing and what we're best at. And it's a trap that I think keeps people there, honestly, forever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where clients come to us at oftentimes. They're like, I'm just tired of doing it this way. I can't do it. And it's like, first we're like, all right, well, like, let's kill those 5 services that you clearly don't like doing. And let's not serve those people anymore because you just told me you don't like them. And that sounds horrible. And like everyone's just running these things because they kind of have to. So I think that's why, like, kind of those 2 reasons.
Yeah. I feel that like for the past, 4
Absolutely.
years.
Hopefully the viewers brought their tissues.
Let's have a moment of silence.
Yeah. Pour a little out
Yeah.
for the dying
There we go.
agencies.
But it's true. I mean, it's such conditioning, isn't it? It's almost like this unspoken, even I haven't worked in a full scale agency, but I kind of know how it works. I've been in a boutique agency. And since then, leaving that, starting my own shop, ever since working for myself mostly. But I'm in that position right now, and I'd be curious to know what you described is almost like the worst case scenario is you are doing a whole lot of things and promising a lot of things for clients or they're asking it and you're just saying yes, like you said, you can't say no. And you end up with this huge like scope of works. But is there another side to it where you could potentially collaborate and do it profitably with different people without hiring, but you are maybe a core team of people who almost always work together? I'm just curious if there is another way to do it, or is it almost always?
I think there totally is. And I want to kind of caveat one thing with this. It's you have to know what you want and what you're trying to build and what you're trying to build for. Because the small one-person agency that works with, a stable group of contractors and they collaborate really well together and they, work on really creative projects that light them up and fulfill them. Like, that's great if that's what you want and makes you happy. But you also then can't complain about the cons that come with that model. Like, it's just naturally going to be harder to grow. If you do all sorts of things, getting the next client and that predictability, that certainty in being able to control growth, or at least have more control in your growth, you are forfeiting that to some degree for most people. There are always exceptions to the rule that have like stellar connections and are fed by referrals plenty. But that's more an exception than I see. Like, if that's what you want and like that's what gives you the type of life you want, great. But it also will come with cons. Just like if you're going to grow and bring on team that are a part of your team, there's obviously cons with that as well. And it's like, the classic saying, like, choose your hard. They're both hard, They're just hard for
Yeah.
different reasons and in different ways.
Different
And
flavor.
it's like, which type of hard are you going to choose to tolerate? You know, the thing that I rarely see that model, depending upon what type of clientele you have, surpass $1 million in top line revenue, which means after all the expenses are said and done, that each, depending upon how many of those people are involved, you're still really only making a low 6-figure salary, which again might be amazing and exactly what you want, which is perfect. But if you're then complaining that you want to make more and you can't, that's probably also one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why we're having these conversations, to kind of speak with people like yourself who kind of been down the road, and we can learn from wisdom instead of banging our heads against the wall over and over and then complaining that it hurts.
I mean, I've been on kind of all sides working within agencies. I started my own agency that was more of a fluid model with several partners. And then we had a network of creatives in different fields that we would work with and bring on for different projects. And it was somewhat successful, but exactly kind of the scenario that you're talking about is like, one, you're creating these custom projects over and over again that are really prone to scope creep. You start to become very much an order taker from your clients, and like, you know, they're like, well, and can you add this on, and can you do that? And we're like, sure, of course we can. Like, you know, and then, you know, that wasn't for me anymore. So I left that business, and now I'm on my own, and I'm essentially a one shop kind of like consultancy for brand strategy.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of looking at it too, like, oh man, I'm giving so much of my time for not a lot of return, and just this like, and I'm going to be maxed out soon, right? Like, it's like I can only take on so much, and then that's my cap. So this kind of, what I'm seeing from you and AltAgency is like, there is this element of like, can we get our time back? It's not even so much of like, how many sales can I make, but like, what gives me time back so that I can focus, one, on the work that I really love to do, as well as like move more into the things that are creative or connection with people and spending time with my community or family. And I'm curious, like, how, with the technological rise of AI and where we're headed, how do you see that factoring into changing business and impacting humanity, so to speak?
I think in the long run, it's going to do, and I'm more of an optimistic person. I think in the long run, it's going to be super beneficial in a lot of ways. I think a lot of how things are being, you know, at least talked about right now, it's like, it's too early to tell, but there are signs that, like, depending upon your profession, take notice. Like, you have to learn how to use these tools, right? I mean, if you're a copywriter and you're really good, AI should make you an even better and more efficient copywriter. It's not going to eliminate the good copywriters. It's going to just make a lot of bad copywriters okay copywriters, which means you have more competition as a really good copywriter. And also, the potential of that skill set will appear to be more commoditized, and thus people might not value it as much. And so that true expert that is a copywriter that learns how to use AI to make them more efficient, they probably also need to go acquire other skills and knowledge that complements that, to package some sort of solution that's more than just someone writing words for whatever you're writing words for, so that, again, you can raise the perceived value of what it actually is. So, and I think that translates over to web designers, coders, trainers, designers, graphic design, all that stuff. And this actually, before AI was even a thing, one of the core principles that I look at that kind of defines this concept of what is an alt agency, like an alternative agency. Because when I was thinking about the name AltAgency, like, first of all, I don't think the word agency means anything anymore. Like, it's the wrong word. And there's other people having this conversation too, but like, it's also a word that we're familiar with. And so, like, we can call it a firm, but like, I just think there's a different way that we as agency owners have to consider growth, and the transference of value and getting our clients results, which historically, as a traditional agency, was labor. But there's more opportunity now. And so like that premise that kind of what this whole thing was built off of was the world and the worlds of like service professional, course creator, consultant, facilitator, coach, insert whatever. The lines between all of those things are the blurriest that they've ever been, right? Like, and I mean, even as someone who, like, you're working with someone on brand, you're probably consulting, mentoring, and advising and teaching all just in the delivery of you doing the service of giving them that new brand identity, right?
Yep.
And those things are actually all monetizable in different ways that don't need to be woven into just your core service. And when you start to unbundle your own methodology, your own approach, the knowledge that you've learned about these things, if you do it correctly, you have other income streams, other things that people can buy that they will value that are far more profitable, easy to deliver, and actually get the client the result that they need based on where they're at, not just how you want to deliver it. So it's like
Mhm.
all of these tech-enabled services, right? I mean, like us using AI, all of those things are actually weapons for us as the owner. And so to my belief is that we should be, how do we leverage these for us, right? And so that led to like one of the core models that we've created, which is this concept like build down to scale up. And so if you can imagine like a pyramid, at the top of the pyramid, you have your core service. If you slice off the top, like it's kind of small, right? It's small because it's really, it's high effort and low volume. Like you can only serve so many clients at such a high touch type of service. But if you then move down to a middle section of the pyramid and you look at, well, what if I were to productize parts of or my entire service where it's like everyone's getting the same outcome for a fixed price at a fixed timeline? Well, I can probably deliver that more efficiently. It's a little bit more of a factory. That's like medium effort, medium volume. And then at the way bottom, you have products, which, you know, a digital course or a book. If you have a way in which you do brand, like you could probably write a book on brand. You could probably create a 2 course or hold a 90-minute brand identity workshop that is like a preliminary to brand that your ideal client needs to understand these things. And you could sell it for a few $100. Like you could teach 200 people in a room for the same price and everyone still gets the outcome. And so when we're like, oh, I'm at capacity for my little top of the triangle for those 5 or 10 clients, well, what about the guy that came to me that was like, can you just show me how to do it and I'll do it? Let me just show you how I do what I do and you can be the hands to keyboard and we both win. And so that pyramid, I think, exposes us to 2 realities. The first reality is that there are people that every agency owner can probably resonate with this. Have you ever lost a client when they said, hey, we've loved working with you, but we're going to bring this in-house?
Yep.
Like, we've all probably heard that. Well, the reality is that for most of what we do, there is a point in their journey where it makes sense to bring it in-house. And they should. And I think deep down, every single one of us knows that that's true. And so the reality is at some point they are going to leave. Sometimes it's because they want to go in-house. Well, who better to train their in-house team to do it than the person who was just doing it for the last year? So we are all sitting on the opportunity to train our client's internal team that is probably junior because that's what they can afford, but they don't have the experience and knowledge that you have. So like you're kind of more of that chief level now. Like, how do you just, hey, over the next 12 months, I'm going to make sure that you guys know how to do all of these things in-house so that you never need another agency again. Okay, cool. You went from losing a client to now having another 6 to 12 month arrangement that is going to be far more profitable for you. And you can probably do 5 of those to the one that you were doing it the way before. So that like there's people that are going to bring it in-house. You don't have to lose those clients anymore. There are also going to be the people that don't want to hire an external person and are just looking for someone to train their in-house. So they might not have even been your client. And they're like, oh my God, I've been following your content on LinkedIn. Like, can you train us? The answer to that should be yes at some point, right? In my opinion. But then there's also the people that, again, as you've all done, like, all right, well, I'm going to raise prices because I can't take on much more. So like, I'm going to make sure that the next client is double. Okay, cool. That only gets you so far until you have more people saying they want what you have and they can't afford you. And now you're turning down a ton of business. And then that, let me train you, also works for those people. Hey, like, I can't do this for you based on where you're at, but like, if you're willing to do X, Y, Z, I will gladly, over the course of 3 months, 6 months, whatever, I will show you how to do it. I'll give you all of my templates, all of my resources so that you have the skill set and the deliverable of this thing that I normally would do, but at this price point that works for you. There are a lot of people that will choose that option because they are willing to do the work. And so just by having that training with the advisory, the coaching, however you want to call it, the done with you version of that service, you now opened up 2 different types of buyers that you never were able to support before, all based off of the same intellectual property and process that you've already been doing. And so it's this concept of like being delivery agnostic. I can get you this result in a variety of ways based on who you are, where you're at, what assets you have to work with. And I mean, I have clients that have a ton of money that still would never want me to do it for them. Just because they have a lot of money doesn't mean they're going to pay me for my labor. And so a lot of agencies are like, oh, well, they have such a huge budget. Just because they have the budget doesn't mean they're going to hire your agency. If they're smart enough, they might want that skill set in-house. And so if you're not willing to show them how to do it in-house, they might just not even hire you in the first place.
It's like that teach a man to fish psychology, right?
I was at a company called Cabela's before I went out on my own, a large retail company. And I was head of one specific division of the marketing department, the mobile marketing department. And we hired very large agencies and also some boutiques. And there was a line item in every single agreement that said, you are going to train us on your capability so that we don't need you again. And they were all like, sure. It extended our relationship by another 6 to 12, 24 months. And Cabela's, hundreds of employees, like they have in-house developers, they have all this talent. They just don't have a process. They don't have the knowledge or the expertise. And over 6 to 12 months, we paid this agency to not only deliver their core service, but a separate line item to bring us up to capability to manage these things in-house so that we're not dependent upon you in the future. And that was another line item that was very profitable for them. And they knew. There are companies, very, very large companies that have been doing this for a long time as well, because they know it's like, okay, I could build your mobile app and, we part ways after 6 months, or we could build your mobile app, get paid for the 6 months of developing it, and then spend another 12 months showing you all of our lean, agile processes on how we optimize and add new features and do all of that stuff, find bugs, all the lean start, like all that stuff. It's like, we didn't have that skill set. And so you were paying for skill acquisition. And a lot of your clients, depending upon what they are already coming to you with or where they are going because of your success with them, will also need those things. So like a very logical offer is like that training. Let me do it with you. Let me show you, and you be the hands. I'll give you all of my resources to make it easy, which you should have because you needed them to work with your clients anyway already. And so I think we're all sitting on easily 6 figures of income a year on the low side of just potentially offering this. Now, if you don't like teaching and you don't like consulting, then this probably wouldn't work for you. But like, you're probably already doing it to some degree for free.
I've also found that just speaking to friends and colleagues of mine, people that have their own business, and it's always fascinating how they grossly undervalue their own expertise and knowledge that they've built up over the years. And then
Oh
you
my
kind
gosh,
of
yeah.
challenge them on that and say, hey, but you could teach this to someone. You could totally have a YouTube channel, or you could make a lot of money just teaching this. And they'd be like, I'm not sure. Me? Like little old me? And
Yeah.
that's one of the things, I guess, that imposter syndrome maybe, or that just not valuing that information that they've been building up.
Yeah, I find that more so with the creative owners. I'm not sure why. Like, you guys are the creative ones. This should be the easier part for you guys. But like, you guys, a lot of creatives get in their own way. But I mean, I think what you're really saying, if I'm being like blunt, is like, you, the creative person that is like, oh, like me start a YouTube channel, me teach and educate. That's marketing. I mean, like,
Mhm.
that's like the way in which you market today is by educating your target market, demonstrating your expertise to your target market. That could be done through YouTube videos. That could be done through LinkedIn posts. That's how people develop authority. That's how people come to know, like, and trust someone. And so if you're not going out there, and the real definition, I believe, of advertising is like to become known, right? It's like,
Yep.
if you are not becoming known to your ideal prospects, like, your strategy is hope, right? Like, hope that the next person is going to refer you. But the challenge with that, and this is where like it kind of turns into this negative flywheel, is because you're relying on that next referral and hope, the more likely you are to take on that project that is out of scope because you
Mm.
need the money, because you don't know where the next one's coming from, right? And so, all right, so you do that. The more that your scope and skill set and deliverables and we're a full service, as long as if that keeps expanding, it actually becomes harder and harder for people to refer you because they don't know what to refer you for. And so like the referral flywheel actually starts to slow down the more that you accept these things, or you find that you're taking on these referrals and it's more and more of conversations of work you don't want to do. Because if I'm a client of yours and I can't say, oh, go work with Greg because he's really good at XYZ, like, I'm less likely to refer you, And so it just slow, like, the more that you expand what you do and who you do it for, the slower the referral flywheel spins, because no one's going to know how to refer you.
It's
That's
a
such a
real
good
truth
analogy.
bomb right there.
It's a downward spiral,
How do you
really.
Yeah.
think people, so I think a lot of us are sitting here with this idea of like, we want to shift into more of this mode, maybe guidance, teaching, getting away from this old agency model. I know you work with mostly low 6-figure plus folks, but let's say you're below 6 figures and you're starting out, or you've been in this kind of mode. What's the first step to kind of take or go about shifting?
Yeah. I mean, before we start kind of packaging expertise, we need to really define that core capability. What is the problem that I am solving and for whom? And get enough repetitions of solving that problem for that specific person. So many of you probably have a client or two that you like more than others for a variety of reasons, that if you had more of them, you would like to work with them. I would be looking for, like, what are the characteristics of that person and like their type of business, their needs, and like eventually work on narrowing my focus to specialize on creating a solution for just more of those people and getting really good at delivering that over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once you can have that, like, we call it the core service, if you have that specific person and you start working with them and you're getting them results, the referrals will help because they'll all be referring more of the same people. But like, your messaging and knowing who to talk to, what to create content about will become far more because you know how to speak to the pains and problems of that one specific person. And if you just do that and you say no to everything else, getting to like the consistent 20, 30, 40K a month should not be that like difficult it might take a little bit of time, but like getting there, you can easily get there with just that thing. Once the cash flow, I'd say, is stable and the lead flow is stable for that core service, then I would start, and if I had the bandwidth, then I would start considering like that second offer where I'm then training on it or
Mm.
walking people through how to do it themselves would be when I introduce that. I see most of our clients on the early side, and it's not tied to revenue, but like it's more so like generally speaking, they're probably more like 40, 50, 60K a month, consistent month after month. And like they're kind of plateaued there, mainly because they're starting to fight that resistance of like, well, I don't want more clients this way. And I've taken that piece as far as I'm wanting to take it. And then they roll out the more leverage thing. But really, it's just how do I refine down what is that one outcome that I'm going to sell and get really good at delivering that outcome.
Such good advice. Greg, what would you say? Do you have a favorite client story from one of your clients at AltAgency?
So one of the ones I share a lot is he's more of I'll do one agency and one kind of more consultant. So one of our former clients, Chris, he was a consultant flying around the country 40 some odd times a year, saying the same thing in a different room, in a different suit. And he was getting paid really well for it. I mean, it was like 25K a pop, 35K a pop, but he was exhausted and was looking for a better way. Every time he tried to hire people, the client still wanted him, the curse of the genius or whatever they call it. And so he clearly had like a way, like he was saying the same thing in every room, choreographed. And so I showed him how to package that up into the training that was virtual, that didn't require him to fly around the country. And that 90-day program, he delivered it live for the first 90 days. And he spent the first, like in 31 days of working together, like getting clear on what this thing was, he made like 35 grand for the first cohort. And within, I think it was like 16 months, that one offer, the done with you version of that same thing he was flying around the country for, generated $1 million in revenue for the business, like within a year and a half. Wow. And now it's like that one offer is producing about 2 million a year. And he's added on some other things since then because he stayed the course. I mean, even with that, he stayed the course. How do I sell this better? How do I deliver better? How do I bring my team in to deliver this? How do I bring in salespeople to sell for me? He had the knowledge, figure out how to deliver it into a group experience that was virtual. He didn't need to fly anymore. And like within the first 30 to 60 days, he's like, he chose to, he's like, I'm never doing the one-on-one thing again. Some people, he probably could have tripled the price and done like 2 or 3 every once in a while, but he just didn't want to. So that one's awesome. Another one that I really liked, Joy and Juan, they were brand identity, like web design folks. And they focused really hard down into permanent makeup artists. And apparently that's a huge community. And so they specialized in permanent makeup artists, and they kind of created a 1-2 punch offer, which was like brand identity into the web. Each were like $8,000. And once they kind of had the processes down, they were able to get 3-4 clients, sometimes 5-6 clients a month coming into one of those packages, sometimes buying both at the same time. And it allowed them to just, once they unpacked each of those services, it kind of turned the service into a conveyor belt. And so she was able to actually hire her brother, who then kind of became like the project manager, kind of the account manager, helping onboard new clients so that she was able to remove herself. She bought back her time. And so he kind of took on some of the administrative side of delivery so that she could focus on the creative tasks. Then she brought in a designer, and their service has evolved now as well. And those are 2 that, I really like, but those are just kind of a couple examples.
Love that, Greg. Just telling these stories, how does that make you feel as someone who helped that process and helped facilitate that and see that kind of flowering before?
It's just like I felt like sometimes in my agency work, you build out this whole thing, it works, and like there's still not a lot of gratitude. like, or like recognition for like how great this thing was that you just did. In kind of the training side of what we do, and I think all of us can do, when you have that transfer of skill and knowledge happen, I think just more naturally you find people that are more likely to share how much you've helped them, which for me personally lights me up and gets me excited. I feel like I'm making a difference and an impact, which didn't always happen when I was just selling services. I mean, it did, but just not as frequently. So yeah, it's awesome to see that. But it's better for me in the beginning. I think money drives a lot of us, and I'm still very driven by money. I think money is great, but it's definitely nowhere close to when you have someone come to you and they're like working 60 to 80-hour weeks, not enjoying their craft anymore. And in a matter of 6 to 12 months, they're like, I love my business. I have time to go pick up my kids from school, and I'm working 4 days a week, and I'm more profitable than I've ever been. Like, that's the best. I mean, like, because I remember what it felt like to feel like I couldn't go on vacation and or couldn't do these things. And so to kind of give those moments back to people has been the most rewarding piece.
That's amazing. I think that's sort of the thing that drives all of us, is really like that connection and being able to help. Can you hear me? I'm here.
Yeah, she disappeared.
Yeah. Can you hear me? I'm here.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's relevant for a lot of people. It's just a different kind of fulfillment, right? Like, especially when you're in a big agency, a lot of your ideas and strategies never actually make it to see the light of day. You work so hard on some of these things and then they can it. Then they just completely change it. Again, that's partly my fault as how I was running the business, but it is also just a natural byproduct of like what most agency owners experience in trying to deliver their work. I don't know if I'm the most qualified to answer this, but I mean, I would like to think that it makes us more efficient. We grew up with like not having it. And so like we're kind of like the last generation to know what it's like to not have it. And obviously they are born into that's the way, which to me is terrifying, because the ability to have real relationships with other human beings, deep relationships, and then even just like a relationship with nature, for example. Like I'm a huge like getting outdoors person, and like is very therapeutic for me. And I can't imagine a world where like our kids and the younger generation doesn't have that, or at least value it like we do. I don't think that's just necessarily an AI thing, although that'll probably make people less likely to want to go outside. I don't know who to attribute it to, but because I don't remember, but they made the comment like all this talk of like how AI is like helping us design faster or write better copy or edit our videos. When is AI going to like do stuff that actually gives me a lot of time back? I want to see AI start doing those things so that I can spend more time doing the stuff that I actually want to be doing. Like, do I need AI to save me time writing copy when I like writing copy? But I'd rather take things from my plate that I don't like doing. Hopefully we'll see that come without them being robots that might attack us. But I'd like to see that in the future, which again, having robots around is going to be weird, but maybe we'll see that like in our homes at some point while we're still alive.
Can you guys see me now? I could see and hear you guys the whole time. So when I was missing, like I was still there.
Well, you got to love Riverside.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think something we ask all our guests is really this kind of vision for the future. So it's like, if you could build your ideal version of the future, what does that look like for you? It's a big one.
I mean, we need time, but I also need to know what to say. I mean, it's so hard. I mean, I think that I just kind of go back to like the things that I value, right? Like what do I want it to look like? I believe that at least the stuff that we're teaching and doing will hopefully allow more service providers that have, dealt with a lot of the things that we've been talking about, like don't have to deal with that anymore, so that they can do whatever it is that they love. I think like I love my work and I love getting better at my work and the mastery of it. But like, I also have a ton of other interests and I love learning. And like, and I want to be outside. I want to be spending more time with my kids. Like, I want to be spending more time with my wife. I mean, I spend a lot of time with them now, but like to have things be a way where like I can feel comfortable that like every service provider that I encounter is not dealing with some of these challenges that are making them unhappy and miserable, because that just trickles down into a poor community, right? I mean, like if I walk out my front door, like I'm friends with all of our neighbors, like we hang out, like our kids play together. Like if they're all miserable every single day from their jobs, whatever their service profession or job looks like, because of a lot of the things that we just talked about, like how does that trickle back to my kid and then how they show up at home or how they show up at school? Like, I just think a lot of us we got into this for like freedom and like the ability to have more choices, and it gave us less. And so a perfect future for me is like we all have the choice to do what we want, when we want, how we want, and like be able to make a living, whatever that looks like for you. That's what I'm hopeful for. Hopefully that's sufficient enough answer.
The dream. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Can I ask you guys a question? So to flip the mic, like, so you guys are obviously doing creative work. Like, from your perspective, you've spoken to a lot of people now. Like, what's the pulse that you have from where the world of agency, freelance, and creative services is going? Are you guys actually worried about AI?
Not. I think this is all very exciting, and sort of the reason for this podcast is exploring. Like, I actually believe that we could be on the verge of a new creative renaissance if we play our cards right with all of these advancements of, can we make ourselves more efficient in things that are not necessarily creative and free up more time to be more creative. And so I think that's kind of what we wanted to explore with this podcast, is like through the lens of, when I say humanity on a broader scale, it's like, how can these rapid technological advancements actually improve us as humans? Like, how do we become more human while we're getting robots and like, other things? And like, what is the differentiation there? And I think that could lead to a second renaissance, if you will. And I think it's all very exciting technology. See? Yeah, no, thank you for coming on, and well, looking forward to connecting again. Sounds good. Bye.